2023 leaned a little more blockbuster heavy for me than some years, but it still explored a lot. The release schedule was absolutely full of variety, from action films and superhero fare that closed chapters for characters with which we had grown attached over the years, to elegant yet bombastic studies on identity, multiple historical dramas, and some downright fantastic animated projects. So let's dive into Push Your Glasses Up's top 10 films of 2023. There's some very obvious baggage attached to this film that we weren't aware of when it was released, so I'd like to establish at the top that it's known and move forward, because I think there's something to celebrate despite the fact that a now known abuser is the primary antagonist in the cast. Michael B. Jordan directs one hell of a movie for his debut, so I want to celebrate that. He's delivered a heartfelt story about how your past can disrupt your present, even if you're doing everything you can to remedy mistakes. It's not quite at the level of the first film in the continuation of the Rocky series, but it's a vast improvement over Creed 2 and one of my favorites in the franchise. It takes a while to reach Asteroid City's moment of profundity, but it's the latest instance of Wes Anderson showing a masterful hand with technical aesthetic while exploring grief, not knowing how to process it and how that's okay. I would say it's easy to assume this is just another set of dolls, but bouncing between a stage play and the reality of the story within it adds an allegorical "is what I'm feeling a real feeling" layer that benefits its themes of loss and how to handle it. Gareth Edwards is best known for his work with big franchises like Godzilla and Rogue One. But the thing that got him those jobs was an original concept called Monsters, and the creator feels like his true follow-up to that. Some of the themes are pretty common when it comes to sci-fi, but it's the lens they're portrayed with, the sincerity amongst spectacle, that makes it engaging and endearing. The people within the events, that's where the heart resides. Evil Dead Rise puts a new spin on the long-running franchise while keeping in line with what came before. An absolute gore fest, just enough humor without going overboard, and more heart than we've seen from previous entries. How can this cabin in the woods horror translate to the big city? Easily. Because unlike a lot of attempts at this kind of setting transfer, it's not about an entire city falling prey to a rural monster. Confining the story to a single floor in a high-rise, mostly to one apartment, make sure that claustrophobia amongst vastness still hits. When you have to follow up the precedent set by Into the Spider-Verse, expectations are going to be high. I dinged Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse for not feeling like it had a satisfying resolution, as it is the first half of a two-parter, but it's undeniable that it's still a banger front to back. I wish we didn't have to end on a cliffhanger, but the darker themes Miles, Gwen, and Peter B. Parker had to reckon with, and then the leaps made in animation over the last 5 years made for a truly stunning sequel. With a vibe that somehow balances an ultra-modern freshness with an appeal for long-term fans, I'm talking the oldest of the old heads like me, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem is not just a reinvention. Something the franchise does on a fairly regular basis, but also reinvigoration. It's an eyeful, almost overwhelmingly, with terrific humor and a message about the routes you can take dubbed as an outcast. You can choose isolation and rage, or you can choose love and aid. It's everything TMNT can be when it's at its best. Christopher Nolan has long held a fascination with quantum composition, so it only makes sense he'd eventually arrive at Oppenheimer. From bending worlds, dreams, and time, to studying a man who immortalized atomic science is a natural path that we probably could have theorized ourselves. There are a few moments in the lead up to the credits that I felt were a bit too self-important. For example, where Oppenheimer himself asks if anyone would tell the truth about what happened in his hearings. But save for those self-aggrandizing winks, the complete picture is as compelling as you'd hope it would be. Godzilla Minus One returns the monster back to its post-traumatic allegorical roots while adding modern sensibilities to an all-time classic. It's both the best and most important Godzilla film since the original. In an exploration of existential dread that history will repeat itself, Takashi Yamazaki writes and directs a story about living in the shadow of doom and upholding a promise to not just survive, but to live, while honoring the franchise's past and also giving nods to other iconic films like Jaws. There's a balance of somber hopefulness that many Godzilla films, especially American productions, lack. It's in those subtle moments that the heart of this film rests. Watching a found family brought together by terror brings lightness and joy in an otherwise foreboding experience. Martin Scorsese is a masterful filmmaker who has told many inherently American stories in his decades behind the camera. And while with Killers of the Flower Moon he continues to do so, it doesn't necessarily mean he's the person who should be telling this kind of American story. Don't get me wrong, this is a masterpiece for what it is because he somehow made a Goodfellas spiritual successor set in 1920s Oklahoma that works on just about every level. I just wish we saw through Molly's POV a little bit more. Barbie is an existential exploration of identity and self-discovery wrapped in bubblegum pink packaging. Barbie is hilarious and heartbreaking and uplifting. Barbie is for people who love Barbie, grew out of playing with Barbie, never played with Barbie, or rediscovered Barbie. Barbie is filled with amazing performances, especially those of Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. Barbie is a laugh riot, an epiphany, and a triumph. Barbie is. Push Your Glasses Up will be back in 2024, so keep an eye out for new podcast episodes, trailer reactions, and more. Thanks for watching. Be safe out there.